What's up, this is Coolwave and I'm going to do a tutorial on PolyMAX, which is free to download until June 30th, 2025. PolyMAX is a virtual analog synthesizer inspired by vintage hardware analog synthesizers like the Roland Jupiter, Oberheim OBX, and Sequential Prophet 5. I compare this to like a Roland Juno. This synth just sounds good. Like pretty much any type of sound you want to make with it, it just sounds good right out the gate. The oscillators are variable wave shape oscillators, meaning you can morph between shapes. Here you got triangle, you've got saw here. Morph in between the two. So my sequential Take 5 synthesizer has this. The new Moog Messenger also has this. And then you go from saw up to a square, and then through the pulse width. Pulse width goes to 99%, so it's not all the way to 100% where it just zeroes out. Back down to 50% pulse width, which is called a square shape. You've got coarse tuning, which goes by semitones. Up 24, down 24. Quick shortcut on Windows, Control left click will set the knob back to its default position. Then you've got fine tuning, which goes by cents. Up 100 cents or down 100 cents, which is a full semitone. FM, which is frequency modulation. Oscillator 2 will modulate the frequency of oscillator 1. So, quick FM tip, typically you want to go up by 12 or 24 semitones, which is a full octave. And this helps keep like a nice pitch to where you can play chords and stuff while having the FM dialed in. But if you want to make percussive or bell sounds or more experimental sounds, you could use different intervals of semitones. You can modulate the wave shape either with the LFO or this second envelope. You can also modulate FM. Moving on to Oscillator 2. This top part of the section is the exact same as Oscillator 1. The only difference is you have sync, also known as hard sync, which is a popular feature in hardware synthesizers. Typically, one oscillator will be synced to the other oscillator. But the way PolyMAX is designed is this sync oscillator is linked to Oscillator 2, which is independent of Oscillator 1. So you can have hard sync going on here and have oscillator 1 in a normal state. And you can also modulate the sync. You have the mixer section, so you have oscillator 1 volume, oscillator 2, then you have noise. You can either have white noise, which basically goes across the whole frequency spectrum, or pink noise, which has some of the higher frequencies cut off. You have a pitch mod knob, which controls the global pitch of the synthesizer. You can either modulate it with a LFO or envelope. So you can use this to get a vibrato-like effect. Or PolyMAX has 4 filter types. You got low pass, bandpass, high pass, notch. So you can also choose between a 2-pole and 4-pole filter. A 2-pole filter has a 12 dB per octave slope. A 4-pole has a 24 dB per octave slope. That means a 2-pole filter is going to have more of a gradual slope compared to a 4-pole, which is going to be more of a drastic slope. So if you have the cutoff set at the same point, you'll notice that the 2-pole gives you a brighter sound in the end than a 4-pole. This is classic low pass filter. So everything below the cutoff point passes through, everything above it gets cut off. Next, you have a bandpass, and as the icon shows, it's going to keep the frequencies around this cutoff point and cut everything above and below it. HighPass is going to allow everything above this point to pass, meaning it's going to cut all the frequencies below the cutoff point. Notch. Notch is basically the opposite of a bandpass. It's going to cut the frequencies around your cutoff point, keep everything else. And as you can hear with the 4-pole, you can really hear that swirly effect as you're cutting and moving the cutoff point. Resonance. So what resonance does is wherever you have your cutoff point, it's going to boost the frequencies at that cutoff point. So it's going to make it sound brighter and sharper where you're cutting at. This filter is also self-oscillating, the resonance. So what that means is you could turn the oscillators down and the filter itself is going to oscillate. Basically, it's a sine wave. What you could do is turn up Keytracking, and this will track the pitch across your keyboard. So what Keytracking does is it basically tracks which keys you're hitting on the keyboard. If you're hitting the higher keys, it's going to boost and kind of add a shelf EQ, and it's also going to cut the higher frequencies when you hit lower keys on the keyboard. So a couple uses for this, aside from tracking the self resonance on the filter, is when you're making bass sounds, you turn up Keytracking, it's going to darken that lower note you're hitting for your bass, and it's going to allow you to play that preset as a lead and have those higher frequencies available. So go back to 0, see how that dulls it out, brightens it, back to the bass, dulls it out as you turn up the Keytracking. You can modulate the filter with this second envelope and also modulate it with an LFO. So popular technique when making pads, set your amp like this, set your attack for longer time than this amp, decay, sustain, and release for a shorter time. Turn that up to 100%. It helps give your sound more movement and makes it feel alive. And then also you can modulate the filter with the LFO. LFO stands for low frequency oscillator. This is basically a controller that modulates different parameters of the synthesizer. Even though it has oscillator in the name, LFOs typically do not make sound on their own. They are programmed at such a low frequency that we can't hear it with the human ear. Just kind of think of it as an automation tool or a controller for everything else. Let's go ahead and modulate the pitch mod with the LFO. So you've got rate, which is synced to your DAW's tempo when this button is clicked. When it's off, it goes by hertz. You've got different shapes. This stands for sample and hold. Think of it as kind of like a random. Next up, you have your envelope section. This ADSR envelope is automatically linked to the amp, so this controls the volume of your sound. ADSR stands for attack, decay, sustain, release. Then you also have a velocity sensitivity slider. So when this is set to 0, no matter how soft or hard you press the keys, the volume is always going to be the same. You set this to 100%. It is going to track the velocity of your keyboard and play the sound softer or louder depending on how hard you hit the keys. Attack is how long it takes for your sound to reach full volume after you hit a key. If it's at 0.001 all the way at the bottom, pretty much instantly when you hit a key, the sound's going to play. You turn this up, it takes a lot longer for the sound to reach full volume. Fast attack is typically for bass sounds, keys, bells, etc. Slower attack is for pads. Decay is how long it takes after you hit a key for the sound to start going down in volume. Let's zero this out. If your decay is all the way at the bottom, the sound is going to go to 0 very quick. If it's long, it would take 10.3 seconds after you press the key and hold it for the sound to go down. Sustain is measured in percentages. It controls at what volume will your sound remain at after this decay part is finished. So after 1.13 seconds after you press and hold the key, if you're at 100%, the sound will go on forever as long as you hold the key. If it's at 0, once that decay is over, your sound's going to 0, and then obviously you could set it anywhere in the middle. Release is how long it takes for your sound to fade out and go to 0 volume after you let go of a key. So if your release is pretty much, at 0, once you let go of a key, it's done. Set it up to 8.98 seconds. After you hit a key and let go, it's going to take 8.9 seconds to fade out. This second envelope is used to modulate all the different parts of the synthesizer. As I mentioned before, a popular technique is to use this second envelope to make a pad sound and add more movement and life to it, but you can also control stuff like the wave shape. FM. You could use it to modulate sync. Next up, you have the output section. Got your main volume, mono, legato, unison. In order to engage unison, you have to have it set to mono. Voice panning. When it's at 0, when you hit a key, it's going to play out of left and right side of the stereo field equally. If you set it to mode 1 or 2, it is going to vary when you hit the key which side of the stereo field, left or right, it's coming out more. Bass, keys, bells, typically you have voice panning at 0, so it's equal on both sides. For pads, more ambient cinematic sounds, you can have voice panning set to 1 or 2. Glide, also known as portamento. This creates a gliding effect between two notes when you hit them one after the other, playing them monophonically, or in the case of PolyMAX, you can also do polyphonic glide. Glide set to 0, playing monophonically. There's no effect. And then let's play polyphonically set to 0. Wheel section. So here you can set your pitch bend amount. By default, it is set to 2 semitones. So if you bend up or down on your pitch wheel, it'll go by 2 semitones. You can also bring it all the way up to 12. So as you bend up and down on the pitch wheel, it'll go up or down a full octave. This is mod wheel, modulation wheel. Can control the amount for it. You can either have it linked to vibrato. The speed of the vibrato effect is controlled by the LFO. or you can have it linked to the cutoff, which is not linked to an LFO. So let's do vibrato. Or we can do filter cutoff. Let's zero that out. Also crank the resonance. Kind of do like a filter sweep type thing. Our Arpeggiator takes the keys or chords you're playing and plays them in a sequence. So you've got octave range. So if you click here, it's going to jump 2 octaves. 3 octaves. Rate, which is linked to your DAW's tempo. 1/4. Okay, then you have 4 modes: up, down, up, down, random. There are 3 mod effects, which you can choose one at a time. So you've got phaser. The rate, you cannot sync to DAW tempo, so it'll be in hertz. And this is your depth knob, also known as wet dry knob. Flanger. Chorus. Delay. So you can sync it to your DAW's tempo. Got a mount, which is a wet dry knob. Feedback. Which is basically how intense. You've got a spring reverb. You can choose short or long spring tail. Brightness, which is how bright or damp or dark the reverb signal is. You got hall reverb, again, amount. This is how long the reverb tail is. And this is how bright or dark the reverb effect is itself. That's it. I'm going to go ahead and make a few patches without talking. Thanks for watching. Peace.